I would like to just welcome everyone to the first of what we are looking to do as a monthly webinar series hosted by ISCS, covering our product lines that we do here. Just a few housekeeping things before I hand over to Sam Hollins. We do have the opportunity at the end of the webinar for the attendees to ask questions, and Sam Hollins will answer them. Please feel free to type in any questions throughout the webinar, and we will get to them at the end and go through them all then. So now I'll hand over to Sam Hollins, who will take you through SPC by Vanderbilt.
Okay, thank you, Maddie. Okay, so this webinar is an introduction into SPC. A little bit, first of all, I'll go through who Vanderbilt are, where SPC or one of the verticals where SPC is being used in Europe, and then we'll go through the hardware, look at the software, and as Maddie said, we'll have a chance to do some questions and answers. So Vanderbilt, where do they come from? So Vanderbilt basically was part of Ingersoll Rand. So it was a large electronic security side. It was pulled out and they became Vanderbilt Industries. Vanderbilt then, in 2015, actually purchased the Siemens security products, which is what SPC became. Later, next year, they actually bought another company called ACT, and that is their purely access control product. So the key products we actually have from Vanderbilt are SPC, which is the one we're looking at today. That's the hybrid intruder access product. ACT Enterprise, which we'll do in another webinar, is access control and video integration, server-based, and then there's ACT 365, which is the smaller baby brother or baby sister of ACT Enterprise, which is a web-based system. Okay, so in Europe, it's been widely used in the financial sector. So the first lot of reference sites I've got have been from the banking sector over there. So as you can see, there's some rather large sites over there. Bankia, 1,000 sites, 1,300 sites in Austria, 460 sites, Norway. So you can see that it actually is big systems, and you'll see later when we jump forward into the head end, how you can actually link all of these individual sites together to actually manage them and control them. Okay. So looking at the hardware, first of all, it is, as I mentioned, a hybrid system. So it is an intruder access system. It's scalable and it comes in different versions as well. You can program it via a web, you can program it via a keypad, you can program it via programming software. It also has smartphone and tablet applications as well. Okay. Now, I'm not going to sit here, I'm not going to do a PowerPoint presentation where I jump through and read everything. So again, just let me know if there's anything that you want me to slow down a bit on. Okay, the system goes together down the middle of the controllers. So as I said, there's different versions of the controllers, 4,000, 5,000 and 6,000, and then they can come in, depending on the panel, different cabinet sizes. So in Europe, there's a lot of requirements based on the cabinet size as to backup batteries, where it can report, those sort of things. So again, the cabinets, a lot of them are based on that. The bigger the cabinet, of course, you can put more expanders in them, you can put more battery backup. Hopefully you can see my mouse moving around. Sorry, mouse isn't on there. Okay, on the right-hand side, you've got all the extended peripherals. So keypads to actually control the system. Keypads can also be used to program the system. On the 620 keypad, you also have some expanders. You can actually add off those to do some additional functions, such as a key switch, which could be used for arming, disarming via key switch, or the key switch can also be used to enable, disable the keypad. They also do a range of detectors, both wired and wireless, And then you can see the access control functionality underneath that with their door expanders. They also have their own range of card readers, but the card readers, of course, the door expander can use WIGAND, it can use OSDP, so you can use HID with it as well. Bottom right shows some of their smart power supplies. So within those, the smart power supply cabinets, you can add additional expander boards. So the expander boards can be put by themselves, or they can be put inside their own power supply, which again will provide some feedback from the power supplies, from low batteries, tampers, AC files, etc. can be reported back to the remote controller. Tools are down the left-hand side, so commissioning tools, end user tools. We're going to look at those when we move through. And then, of course, there's different reporting paths too, CMS, the ARC reporting path. So you can report via GSM, you can, it's got IP reporting, you can report via a Permicon unit, those sort of options are in there as well. Okay, the three different types of cabinets, G2, G3 and G5, again, it's purely size. What can I put in there? With a G2 cabinet, they're primarily used as your entry level. You'll put your controller in there. You can fit one expander and space for a 7 amp hour battery. The G3, which is probably the most common, you can fit 4 expanders. The main controller comes on a flip down lid. It's a little bit hard to see in the diagram, but you can actually control the lid. Some of the expanders sit behind on the back wall and some of them fit on the lid. And that can actually have either a 7 amp hour battery or 2 7 amp hour batteries. And the G5 is the big one. So you can actually fit 6 expanders in that and have a lot bigger. You can actually have two 27 amp hour batteries in that. Okay. Differences again, don't only come with the enclosures, they come with the actual panels themselves. So the 4,000 left-hand side, middle is your 5,000, right-hand side is the 6,000. So 4,000, you've got 4 areas, you've got 100 users, you've got 4 doors. That's probably the 3 main key features on that. With the 5,000, 16 areas, 16 doors, and 500 users. 6,000, as you can see, 60 areas, 2,500 users, and 64 doors. Okay, and then you can actually link your system together with the head-end software as well. Okay, now with your users, you can see that also can be broken down with those users as whether they're going to have a fob, a PIN, a PACE, which is an access card used for arming and disarming, or an access card, which is an access card to go through a door. So there's actually a difference between those 2 different types of cards. Having said that, an access card can also be used to arm and disarm. A PACE card is purely for arming and disarming only. Okay. Now the other thing you'll see in the middle there is XBus. XBus is the communication bus. So again, the amount of devices you can have will change as you go from one controller to another as well. We'll move to the XBus a bit later. Okay. There's 3 different types of keypads, portrait and one landscape. So the little 2x16, the 400 series keypad, it's the first one you can see there. Can have an EM format reader in if required. Whereas the other 2 have a much bigger display and you can put a lot more on them. You can actually even show your company logo on those as well. You show time of day, you can see the program. If you're doing a multiple area system, the bigger keypads are much better because you can see more information about each of your areas, which scrolls just under. If you look at the middle one, you can see just under, you've got the clock, and just under that tells you the information of your areas, which you can scroll through. So these can be used for programming as well as for using the system. The 600 series also has a whole range of add-ons you can put underneath it as well to do different functions, as I mentioned previously. Okay. For the expanders, door controllers and the indicators, they will go on the XBus as well. So you have just a few of them I've picked here, 8 input, 2 output, or 8 outputs. So if you want to add additional inputs, you want to add additional outputs. Again, outputs could also be used for low-level lift control, of course. Inputs just to expand the number of inputs you want on the system. You've got your door expander, which will do 2 doors. If you're doing reader in, reader out, of course you use one of those because it's got 2 WIG ports, or it can do your OSDP. And then you have your indicators. Now these indicators, the 2 on the right hand side, go underneath the 600 series keypad. So you can see you can indicate LEDs. They can be used for anything. They can be shown for inputs that go into alarm, area arming and disarming. You've also got buttons you can use to actually have additional functions as well. And then the key switch expander. You'll also note there's also audio expanders as well. One other thing the keypads can have is little intercom functionality with them as well. So you can actually talk between them and use either just an audio expander to communicate via, or it can also be used to enunciate alarms out as well. Okay. Power supplies, again, the different power supplies come in different size cabinets, same as the controllers, to actually, again, house more expanders. Okay, so again, for example, you can use the SPC, the one on the end, 433. You can have up to 4 additional expanders. You can have a lot bigger door expander. The one in the middle could be a 2-door expander, etc. Okay. One of the key things with SPC as well is their communication bus, the XBus. So the XBus is a single twisted pair. Doesn't need negative, it's self-referencing, and it can do 400 metres between each device. So from device to device, and as you can see, the other key thing, you can go up to 50 kilometres in total XBus length. So you've got a lot of distance you can go from one to the next. Okay, so you want to have a shielded cable, but it will also do unshielded, but that would reduce the range you'll get on that as well. Okay. With the panels, you also have, with the 5000 and the 6000, you have 2 loops or 2 XBus connections. With the 4000, you only have a single. So with the 5000 and 6000, you can actually do a loop. So as you can see, I can come out of the top, go around my expanders and back into the second. What that will do is if anywhere gets cut, it will still communicate the other one, and it will actually tell you where in the loop it's been cut as well, between which devices. So one way you can do it is a ring, but of course you can also, depending on how you've got the system set up, run each of those as individual spurs. Okay, so then you just basically terminate at each end when you do that, like a typical 485, even though the XBus is slightly different from 485. Okay. So again, just expanding on that, as you can see from each device, you can go 400 metres. You'll also note that each device type has its set of addresses. So every door output input expander is 1, 2, 3, 4 as they go along. Every keypad 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. So you can see that it's going to keep going round in a loop. So it doesn't know where that's cut. Okay. Now, interfacing with the actual panel, of course, as I mentioned, you can use a keypad. So the keypad is connected via the XBus. Another way, if you're on-site or remote via your PC, you can use either SPC Connect Pro, which we'll look at, or you can program it via the web. Okay, so it has an onboard web interface. Now we can connect with our local PC, either RS-232, there's USB connection, or we go via Ethernet. Remotely, then of course we've either got to go via our WAN, or the PSTN isn't actually used here anymore, but you could use that if it was available, or if your GSM connection as well also lets you program and communicate with the system as well. Okay, so locally, and we'll look at these software packages once I've got through this a little bit. SPC Connect Pro is the engineer tool. Okay, so with the engineer tool, it's a Windows package. you set up an installer account via SPC Connect. SPC Connect is their cloud-based system. We'll have a look at that as well. So you need an installer account on that. So you set yourself up as an installer, then you use that installer account to access SPC Connect Pro. You connect it locally via IP or USB, and that can have an offline database of the system on SPC Connect Pro. You can also, if you don't want to use SPC Connect Pro software, you can connect via a web browser. Okay, so default settings there for a port and an IP address, of course, they can be changed as well. One of the differences we will note there is that web browser is unencrypted. SPC Connect, whether it be SPC Connect or Pro, has some encryption between the software and the panel. Okay. You can also, as I said, program through the keypad. There's, of course, a lot more programming functionality via software, because as we know, we can all put a lot more text in a keypad to describe, for example, where the device actually is. You can also do it through a keypad. One of the things is I always find it strange doing things through a keypad. A little bit harder to see on a little screen what you can see, everything in front of you, but it can be used as a quick stopgap to go in there and program the system if required. Okay. Remotely, again, I can access my system by SPC Connect Pro. Okay, so it goes through my SPC Connect cloud, but I can access it remotely. I can also have panels, as long as I can VPN to the system, I can access it that way as well, rather than through the cloud. And then there is SPC Connect Cloud. Okay, so there's two different, we'll look at this in a minute. So spcconnect.com, you have either an installer account or a system user account. Okay, system user account is what is used for end users and what is used for the app. So the SPC Connect app. The installer account is, of course, what's used by installers to set the system up. You may also, though, have an installer account for, say, the manager of a group of sites. You just restrict, of course, what functionality they have as an installer. We'll see the differences when I log into the SPC Connect, what you can see for a system user, what you can see for an installer. Okay. Now, with the app, of course, you can arm and disarm, you can inhibit or isolate your inputs, you can activate, deactivate outputs, you can also enable, disable users and see what they're doing in there as well. Okay. Now, I just wanted to make mention of this quick slide here. So as you can see, down the bottom, a web or a local connection interface, there's no encryption. Whereas if you go via the SPC Connect server, you've got AES 256 encryption between both your laptop and the cloud server, and then the cloud server and the panel. Now, the cloud server is held by Microsoft Azure. They are looking at another system where you'll be able to locally host your system as well, rather than have it using the SPC Connect. Okay. Different levels of users in the system. Put this up for some key things. There's, of course, the users, the people who are actually going to use SPC. They're going to type their PIN in, they're going to swipe their card. Of course, they have user access. You can set up within SPC users who will allow the engineer on site. So you don't have the engineer just walking up and start accessing the system. So you can actually give a little bit of additional security in there that somebody has to actually say, yes, the tech can come in and access the site. One of the things the system will do, though, and we'll see when we get in there, is if a tech has actually logged in and not logged out, you can actually see it and you can log them out as well. Soft engineer, these are people that are basically going to use this system via the software. So they're not actually programming the system, but they may be setting and unsetting, they may be checking logs, they may be doing some user functionality in there as well, but they're not actually programming the system. Whereas a full engineer, and it's actually done by a little slide at the top, then you're actually programming the system. When you're in full engineer mode, the system isn't actually operational, so it won't report, no outputs actually activate, those sort of things aren't in there. So to do any of your testing, you sort of jump in and out from full engineer to soft engineer when you're testing it as well. Okay, so that was a quick run through of hardware and functionality, I think now if I jump through into actually looking at the software, we'll get an idea of what we can actually see in there. So this is probably the key difference from most systems out there, the SPC Connect cloud-based system. So I'll be spending a bit of time in this rather than on the hardware. If there is any questions on the hardware, then of course, yeah, put them through. So I'm just going to, I've actually got a minute X go out of that. Mouse. So when you go into SPC Connect, this is the first screen you'll see. Where I can log in, or I can actually register myself as either a system user or an installer. Okay, so I will show you both logins. I have a login for an installer first. If I type my password incorrectly, try that again, and save. There we go. So when you log into SPC Connect, this is what you would see from a default login, depending on where your sites are, etc. You can actually change the layout, and I'll show you that in a minute, but it gives you, whoops, scroll on the right spot, gives you a quick layout of the main, this is the key widgets that you can actually have on there. So having a quick look around, you can see in the top, I can use this here to actually register a new panel, add a new site group, etc. I can see here what's happening with all my sites based on my login. So on the right-hand side is a map-based one. For some reason, Melbourne's gone offline. But you can see I've left this in this way so you can see some different options here. This is one way of viewing it, where I can see that some of my sites, I've got 4 sites, Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne and Adelaide. 3 have got comms faults. One's got some sort of other fault on there, but that's not communicating. Something's completely offline. And one of them, there's an engineer's being left on site. Okay, again, I can see that over here. You can also come across over here and see, so Lakenhome, one panel's okay, but it's failed, it's comms, the other one's got a fault. In Belrose, my panels are online, but partially set, which was telling me because I know one panel's armed and one isn't. I'll jump into these a bit more in a minute. These 2 are basically offline. I don't know why Port Melbourne went down, but whoops. Another thing you can actually see quickly, and for all my panels, there's 6 panels in my complete site, is the firmware versions of each of them. So 4 of my panels have actually been updated to the latest, and purposely left 2 so we can see the different, 2 haven't. There is a quick and easy way, again I'll jump on in a minute, to show you how you can actually update your panels all in one go. But if we keep looking through, your config and remote maintenance reports is essentially I can have the system automatically back up my panels. Okay, so I've always got the latest backups stayed, plus any previous backups stay in the system as well. So I'll show you that. A remote maintenance report is, as it says, it's a how is the panel actually now? And we'll have a look at those. So you'll see that some of the, again, I've got those set up to automatically set to work. So 3 of them have worked okay. One of those reports has told me that I've got an inhibit. So one of them's got something being inhibited. One of them's got an alert, which is probably an alarm, etc. I can see with my sites how many sites I've got and how many sites have had panels added. So I've got sites with registered panels 4, so 4 sites. This month, one of the sites has had an extra panel created. 6 installers and 1 system user. Okay, so the only system user set up at the moment is actually me, so a different way to actually look at the system. Then you can see down a bit further, this is an audit log of what's been happening with SPC Connect, and over here is things that have been happening on the site. So it looks like just recently Felix might be rebooting his panel. Maybe Whiteport Melbourne's actually offline. Okay. So a few ways you can actually get to what's happening on site. So I can click here, for example, engineer on site, and it will take me to the site's and you can see this one has an engineer on site, it's Port Melbourne. Okay, I'm just going to jump back and forth a few times so you can see the different things. I could go, well, it has a comms fault. And we can see their comms fault. Well, this one's basically never been online in South Australia, apart from when it was first set up here. Port Melbourne has gone offline just recently. And the other options are in there as well. So you can quickly go to them that way. The other thing you can do too is from the, if you don't want to do it that way, you can do it from the map. So if I came here, I can, again, zoom to my site, which will actually show me, bang, exactly where it is. I can see site settings, I can see local settings. If I want to look at the actual summary for the panel, and again, it's just brought up the first one, I can actually bring them both up because they're both in the same site. We can see what's happening for both these panels. So for the test panel, it's been armed. So that's the one that's armed, whereas the other one is unarmed. Why it's saying this site, which has 2 panels in it, is partially set, because only one of the panels is armed. We can also see that some things are isolated there. I've got my cabinets open, so I've isolated those out so they won't keep alarming. If I want to actually access one of those panels, let me go into here. This is the web interface, so I can access the web interface directly. Log in with engineer code, turn that off. Okay, so again, you'll get that same system summary tab when I first come in the top right hand corner. It's telling me I'm in soft engineer mode. Now you can see in soft engineer mode, I can basically just see the status of the panel, everything that's happening on here, the date, how my current, the battery, etc. Anything that's been, I've got my 4 devices online. No modems are connected at the moment, but I can see my functioning there. I can go to my XBus, see what's happening there. I've got an 8 output expander online, and etc. Go through your devices and see what's happening there. You can go to your FlexC, which is actually their type of reporting, and again see how that's actually going as well. So I can see that's all communicating okay. One of those FlexC, which FlexC is the protocol that SPC uses, which had that 256 encryption. So it's their IP-based reporting. So we use a FlexC connection, as you can see at the top there, for SPC Connect. So you can go through and check your users. If, for example, now I come up here and put it into engineer mode. Okay, so now I'm in full engineer mode. You'll see I get the additional configuration and communications where I can actually start programming the system. I can check the logs, etc. Okay, so again, that's a whole new side setting up, but you've got the web interface. So if I come back to, so the web interface is directly, I can access it through SPC Connect. Okay, I've now got 2 sites with engineers on site. One of the other things you can do as a quick thing is go into your site operations, and I can see everything happening here for the whole site. So there's all my systems there. I can see Belrose has 2 panels, Lakenholm 2 panels, they're all okay. Port Melbourne's off. Here I can, again, go to those site summary for each of those sites. I can connect to one of my panels. I pick which panel I want to connect. I can go into the config manager again, and that's where I can actually back up my sites, my panels. Go back to it again. Remote maintenance, running maintenance report. I'm going to quickly click on that. So you see system summary. Okay. And you'll see the maintenance report through there. So again, see, one of the things you'll notice too via this web, say for example, someone's been onto the demo site, they've been in engineer, they've left site, I can actually exit them out of site here. I don't have to log back into the web, I can do it from here. The other thing you've got in there too is there's audio verification you can put in there with cameras, so when an alarm occurs you can actually play back some video. if I go to the multi-site operation, one of the things I wanted to show you before was firmware upgrade. This will show me all my panels in my ISCS site. If I have multiple sites, again, I can filter. I can see which ones are done there. I can then tick those two and say I want to upgrade them to the latest version. So you can upgrade them easily through this. You can also, of course, connect directly to the panel and update the firmware in that way as well. Okay, so here I can see events on the site, I can see multi-site status. This is another good one to have a look at to see what's happening. And again, straight away on this one, I can see what's happening with my panels. So this one's been armed, this one's still got engineer mode, these ones are synced, these ones all have the engineer access allowed without requiring an end user to access. So if that wasn't ticked, it would require an end user to type in their code and say, yes, now the engineer can come in. And of course you get your remote maintenance reports from here as well. So you can see remote maintenance, these are the ones I wanted. Remote maintenance reports can either be triggered on an event or you can manually request it. So if I look at those reports again, I can actually bring those up and see what the report is. I forgot to click on this last time. So there's a report that was run on the 9th of the 9th and how the system was set up. The zones, how they're set up, connection status, Ethernet status, and then the log in the system that's been going through. So that can be used to be sent to us from when we're fault finding or to actually have a quick look in when we want to have a look at a system that we might not have access to straight away. Okay. I want to go back to dashboard. And just quickly to show you too, so I did mention before how you can have a different setup for your links. I've just set one up quickly where I've shoved things around a bit. So I've put, this was basically done for when I wanted to use it on an iPad. And I wanted to hold it in a portrait mode. If I held it in landscape, my map was okay. When I didn't hold it, my map disappeared. So I wanted my map to be front and center. So I went to portrait mode, I just moved them around. Again, you can put them any way you want to actually use them. Okay, so that's basically a quick look through what an installer can do. So again, you can see this has actually changed now because of what I've been doing on the site. So it will refresh by itself. If I log out of this and now log in as a user, just to show the different, no, that's wrong password. Okay. As a user, I can see my panels. So I've just basically enabled the fact that I can see 2 demo and 1 Logan Home. You go into the actual panel programming as an installer and say these users have access to these panels. So then when they log in next, they'll see the additional ones in there. Okay, so I can then, for example, go into demo and I have now the ability to see everything that's sitting. I can arm and disarm it. I can connect to it if I needed to from here. I can look at my panel users. So again, that was a nice thing to actually do that. Why is that coming up? Oh, I don't have the rights to actually access the users. Well, there you go. That was a mistake. So you can see straight away saying that for this panel, we haven't actually enabled the right to actually see the users. But you can go in there and set that up so I can program the users as well. Events will again show me that what's been happening with SPC Connect. Log will show me what's been happening on the panel. Okay, it's been going up and down. Okay, so that's SPC Connect. So the differences you have with the installer, you can see everything. So again, why sometimes, if you want them to have a graphical, quick overview dashboard, you may give the manager on site access to it. But again, there's different levels of users you can have accessing SPC Connect. Okay. The other tool we mentioned was SPC Connect Pro. Now this is the technician software. So I need to log in with my installer code. Okay. So with SPC Connect Pro, this has all databases with this can be stored offline. So if I look at my local panels, I'll put a couple of local panels on there, which are my 2 here in Belrose. I'm in Belrose, I've added them. One actually quick and easy way you can do that is to go to panel discovery. You know, I've added all panels. This will find any other panels that are on my network, and I can access them that way. I can keep offline configuration, so I can base this database now. This is a Bellrose test or Bellrose demo, have been stored on my laptop, so I can actually use this one to change and edit. So I can download it there, make my changes, and then re-upload it to the panel. The other thing I can do is I can save those as favourite configs. There's some default ones in there, as you can see. So different ways they've got in there that they use over in Europe, but I could save these as a standard type of import way I want to set up the panel. So I can view these, I can replicate these, I can add these to a different system. You can also access all your panels from SPC Connect. I'm just going to see, this is, goes out and interrogates my SPC Connect account, looks at all the panels I've got access to, sees if my login has access to it. It takes about 30 seconds and then brings all those panels in. So again, I can access these panels and add them in as my local panels if I want to as well. Okay, now one difference, if I go back to these, you'll see when I connect to my panel, again, it looks very similar to the web interface I had before. I can see where I'm logged in at the top locally. I can do a backup of my configuration. Okay. So I can save that backup directly to the site. Whereas going the other way around, if I view it, I can then send that configuration back to the panel once I've made my changes. So you can see system, input, output, doors, etc. Okay. So SPC Connect Pro is where you can actually do some work offline. It's a technician tool. The main thing you need with that, as I said, is install a login on SPC Connect, but you don't actually necessarily need to use SPC Connect to use this. This uses an SQL database locally on your laptop. Okay. I will now just quickly. So that basically is a quick look through of the Connect, Connect Pro and the GUI. Oh, make that full screen, you are correct. Thanks, Maddie. Okay, so I guess now it's question time. Anyone that has any questions they want to fire through?
There is a question that's been submitted. What's the end of the line monitoring for the alarm and access system? For example, is it Class 5 accredited?
Ooh, that is a good question. Class 5 has monitored end of line, so no, I don't think they have that at the moment, but I will confirm that one. So the end of line resistors are set, whatever you put them in there. You can actually use different resistor values, but they're not something that actually actively changes, which is or you need a 485 type end of line for Class 5, which they don't do.
Any other questions that anyone would like to submit to Sam? No?
Okay.
Okay. I think we might leave it there. And we have another question. What market do we think that'll go out to?
What market do you think this will go out to? Finance is definitely a key one, but anywhere where you basically want to... The key, I guess, differentiation of this one is SPC Connect, being able to see all your systems at once, being able to... For a installer to be able to actually log on, see what your system is, a lot of the stuff you'll be able to do without even sending a tech on site. That's the way they've actually designed the system. That's the way they've actually set the system up to be something where you can do a lot of your work without sending someone necessarily to site. Having it that it will automatically do your backups, having it so it automatically does maintenance reports, they can also be sent out as well, is the key difference for SPCs to the other systems that I've seen earlier.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay, great. I think we will leave it there. If you have any other questions, please feel free to contact us. We also have, as Sam showed us in SPC Connect, live demo products in all of our branches across the states. So if you'd like to arrange a time with your branch directly to come in and have a look, have a little bit of a live demo play around in our offices, you're more than welcome. We'd be happy to show you. Yeah, please get in touch. Any further questions?
Also, you can check on the website. There's more information on there as well. If you need to find anything as well, there's also some neat little videos on there to show you a bit more as well.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks very much, everyone. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day.